Hello, and welcome to an educational episode of the Local Cast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. With us today, Joshua Nordstrom out of Homer, Alaska, and Tierra Tile talks about his artistic journey from handcrafting mosaic shapes from slabs of clay to recreating an entire industry. We talk about that, and we talk about how he and a couple other professionals have actually rewritten the book on tile and inserted their own unique flavor.
Lee and I have both wanted to do training. You know, my pipe dream is to have a shop up here to where I can have installers come in and they could come up for like a work vacation. We can do like a 4-day workshop and I could teach them how to do mosaics, and we can go out and do some fun Alaska stuff for a day or two, and then they could fly out.
Josh and I have been best buds since high school, and I've followed his journey in the tile world from the start. I'm thoroughly impressed with what he's done, and I'm excited to see where he's going. The Local Cast was brought to you today by Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. If you'd like information about Fresco Harmony or anything from this podcast today, you can email me directly at info@frescoharmony.com. But for now, Joshua Nordstrom of Tierra Tile on the 6th episode of the Local Cast. Let's get into it. Joshua Nordstrom, Tierra Tile. You are... Let's give a little history on Josh and I. Josh happens to be, I was going to say one of my best buddies, if not my best buddy. We go all the way back to high school, sophomore year. Josh and I weren't really good friends, but then like nobody else wanted to locker partner with us, so we had to choose each other. So it was more out of necessity. It was more out of necessity than anything. I believe, right? It was sophomore year.
Yeah, I think so.
We became locker buddies.
And we realized we had a whole lot in common.
Well, we got in trouble a lot, and I feel like that really bonded. That sealed the deal. So Josh and I have an interesting parallel sort of story where I was artistic, he was artistic. We played around with pottery, and I played around with pottery a little bit, but my go-to was bead necklace making, and we both were artists. And you were heavily into the pottery and glazing. We almost burned our trailer house down one time because we had a kiln in there, and I think we left it on, or the glaze dripped down onto the trigger.
The glaze dripped down and fused to the cone, so it didn't turn off. And we went golfing that day, if I remember right. And had a late night. We came home and it was still on. It was just bright orange, and the trailer was like 120 degrees. That trailer would have went up like a Roman candle if that I remember all of the art pieces that we had made were just all melted. Everything slumped into like a big blob.
We were doing pottery. You were doing windows at that time, windows construction. You were getting into
replacement,
more construction. Yeah. Josh is very savvy at many different aspects of construction, where I chose the drywall route, and that sort of limited me to one trade, which was fine. I was doing other things too. So fast forward, I started carving out a niche, doing something creative with drywall and color. And Josh began carving out a niche doing custom mosaic hand-cut tiles. And I'll explain it a little bit. You were originally, when I saw like the blue herons back at your mom's house 20 years ago, you had a projector and you projected down an image down onto a slab of clay, and in some fashion you were able to cut out the aspects of the blue herons and then fire them, glaze them, somehow keep the numbers of like these paint by number tiles in place when you took it from the kiln and all these different colors to the wall where you put them back together. Not like a mosaic, though. I don't like calling it mosaic because I see mosaic tiles and they're not really shaped. It's like a bunch of crushed tile or squares put together to make an image versus what you do, which are shaped tiles. It's more like stained glass tiles, like what stained glass sort of looks like. And then you've gone down that path with tile being the predominant, I guess, money maker, but that's what you do. That's your bread and butter. And then you can fuse your artistic skills in with the mosaic tile making, hand cut tile into that trade. I mean, I guess a first question would be, was choosing tile more out of necessity to facilitate your art than anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of stumbled on what I do, going back to the days of doing pottery. I had a chance to make some tiles for our friend Phil's apartment for his stair treads, and I saw that there was, it was really cool, and I figured that, there's a market for that. So that planted the seed. And I proceeded to make tile, hand make mosaics, like you're saying. I call them mosaics because I don't really know what else to refer them to. Because that's what they are, is a mosaic. It's just a different style. It's not broken tile, it's shaped tile, like you were saying.
Sure.
But that's what led me on to what I do. And somewhere along the lines, I realized that it's hard to sell the handmade stuff because there's just so much time invested, and it's hard to get, your time out of it without losing on every job. So then throughout that, I did a couple tile jobs with, some people, and kind of stumbled on tile. And then I bought my first tile saw. And then it took a few more years till I realized, well, I can cut these square tiles into these shapes instead of make them from scratch. So that's ultimately what I started doing. Is I started doing the same principles that I was doing with hand making the mosaics, and I just skipped the whole make the tile and went straight to store-bought tile. And then that allowed me to use like tile that people are actually putting in their homes too, with the same color motifs and stuff. So yeah, that just opened up a whole new world. And
but that was a long spectrum. That was like years from.
That took a few years. Yeah.
You were doing the hand shaped tiles and the manufacturing of the tiles, like on each individual product. It seems like you could do like a premium charge for certain clients that want that like old school Joshua Nordstrom, method. If you wanted to, like, here's the old school, like, I'll make the tile from scratch. You're going to pay a premium, it's $40,000 minimum, whatever. And then here's the hand cut tile that's more trainable, I guess. And so you're moving into more of a realm where you're talking about the tile. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. You're talking about the tile. You're training other people how to do it, or you're illuminating the industry with this newer technique. Or did this technique already exist? There's a little bit there.
Well, the funny thing about mosaics is it's really one of the oldest art forms known to exist, next to like cave paintings. You see mosaics that are thousands of years old. And the irony is it was a lost art form. The tile industry just went totally stale and forgot about mosaics. And, and I blame the box stores for that. When the box stores came along and started selling tile at 99 cents a square foot, that just, that made everybody think that they can be a tile installer. And it really dumbed our industry down. And it made anybody think that they can install tile, and it created a lot of failures. So there's a lot of failures out there because people not properly trained on
I can do tile.
Really put a
I can
black
do
eye on our industry, you know?
I can do tile. I just
Yeah. Well,
it takes too long. I just don't have the time.
can't tell you how many times
But
I've heard that.
that is so true in drywall, maybe more so. I don't know, but like even more so in drywall. Anybody, I don't know if you knew this, but anybody can like float out a wall, you know. And that's an ongoing joke in our industry too, and it's probably pretty much throughout. Yeah, I could wrestle through a tile job, but it would look like shit, you know.
Mhm.
And I mean, there's YouTube videos and stuff like that, but I would go so far as to say that any of these trades, you know, you're paying for the time invested in all of the hours that are spent learning how to do it properly, you know, and
Yeah.
over years and years, you get better and better at something. And, you know, people are like, why is it so much money? It's like, well, because I'm doing it. It doesn't look like shit. You know, your wall's not going to
Right.
bubble or whatever. Your tiles aren't going to fall off after a couple years.
Well, and you know, I do everything to industry standards too. I'm one of 2 certified tile installers in the whole state of Alaska. You know, I took the liberty upon myself to educate myself on modern day standards through the NTCA, the National Tile Contractors Association. And I flew out a couple of years ago, went down to Fresno and did my CTI, my certified tile installer test, and passed it. So now, you know, I'm one of 2 certified tile installers in the whole state of Alaska. There's only one other guy. He's up in Anchorage. He's more of a commercial installer, but you know, everybody else is, you know, and I was self-taught. I taught myself.
Who's the guy up in Alaska?
You know, I don't know his name off the top of my head. I just know after looking on the registry, there's only one other registered
You haven't met
installer
him?
in Alaska. I've met him at like a Schluter training event a few years ago, but I don't remember his name. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I know that there's only 2 of us, and you know, nationwide there's not a lot. It's something that's growing in our industry. I'm number 1643, and I think now they're up into like the 1900s. So there's only 1900 people nationwide that are actually certified through the industry doing tile, you know.
So if I'm looking to hire somebody to do tile, why is that a big deal? I mean, this guy's charging $800 to do a job. Maybe the certified guy's 2,000. You know, I'll go with the $800 guy.
Right.
You
well, I mean,
know,
you get what you pay for.
yeah, you buy the materials.
So I can answer that. Like, you know,
It's a legitimate question. I mean, this is why the industry has been dumbed down, is because, you know, people in our to have accountability, people in our industry dumb it down.
Yeah.
We don't charge enough. We're not certified. We don't go through the proper channels. We're undercutting our buddies, things like that. That's what causes the rates to continually slide, you know, when we need to be like, you know, a rising tide lifts all ships type of philosophy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's tile. There's not a lot you need to be a tile installer. You know, I mean, you know, the tools are, I mean, you can go crazy. There's a lot of specialty tools, just like in the drywall industry, right? But, you know, anybody can go out and buy a tile saw, and then all of a sudden you're a tile contractor. So, you know, guys go out and buy a tile saw. They go to Home Depot and buy a cheap tile saw, and, you know, they're a Home Depot tile installer. And, you know, those guys are out hacking jobs up because they don't know the proper installation methods. You know, there's a lot involved with tile. You know, just, I mean, there's different types of thin set. You know, we call it mud, just like you do in your industry, and there's different kinds of mud in your industry, and you got to know what to use, where to use, when to use it. There's, you know, there's expansion and contraction. You know, there's that aspect there. You know, there's a lot involved, and then you get into like the showers. You know, guys will go in and build a shower and think they know what they're doing and screw up a shower, and then it'll do tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage to the house. And people don't realize that more water goes down the drain of your shower than will ever hit your roof. You know, you got to figure if you got a family of 4 and everybody's taking a shower a day and everybody's using 30, 40, 50 gallons of water in their shower, that adds up fast. That's a lot of water that you're funneling down your drain. If I go in and I bid a shower at $12,000 and people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't imagine it would cost that much. Cause I went to Home Depot, my tiles are only $1.95 a square foot. It's like, well, there, just because you got cheap material doesn't mean the labor's cheap. It's when you're using cheap materials, the labor's actually goes up because it's harder to use those materials because they're crap. They chip easy, they're bowed, they're just real fragile. There's a lot involved. So, people just don't understand like how much things cost. I think you run into that in your industry too. It's like, people come in with high hopes and, I'm bidding a shower now.
Let's take that phone call. We got a caller coming in.
Yeah.
So Joshua Nordstrom, Tierra Tile, let's go back up a little bit. We're getting a little ahead. I don't want to talk too much about industry. It's kind of boring. Construction's challenging, but I think that's all changing. I like the fact that, I guess there were other people doing mosaic type work in your industry, but would you say that you're pioneering this method, and there's probably a balance there where you're creating systems and methodologies to make it easier to create these beautiful works of art and maybe teach other people how to do it too. Is this an avenue that's like completely, because like forget about 5,000 years ago and all that, like we're in today's day and age, people are doing tile. Are you carving out a niche where you can show people like there's a way somebody wants, a map or a globe in their entryway or something neat, or a picture of their family or something? How does a tile person as a layman do that? Or is this more of like, an artistic muscle that people have to nurture in your industry and think outside of the box a little bit? Because I know you're doing stuff on a national level where you're like sort of showing, these skills that you're maybe coming across skills that require the products and materials of the tile industry today to create something extraordinary, and other people can do that too. Like, let's talk about that, because that's cool, man. That's where you're like really changing an industry or creating a sales dynamic that didn't exist before. Put a medallion in your entryway, or, do this cool thing in a shower or something like that.
Yeah, well, it's definitely turned into that, and that's really exciting.
It's cool.
A few years ago, I did a mosaic, octopus mosaic in a shower, and at that same time is when I stumbled on all these Facebook pages. There's a whole bunch there's more now than there was back then, but all these tile pages on Facebook, right? Tile groups. I'm sure there's drywall groups on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I got on those groups at the same time that I did this octopus mosaic, and I posted the octopus mosaic, and it just blew up and it went viral. And it was a crazy ride for like, I don't know, 2 weeks. It was just nuts, just trying to keep up with all the comments and everything.
Let me back up a little bit too, and just tell the listening audience that like this Kraken, as you called it, was this mosaic octopus in the shower, and you can check it out, but it's like glow in the dark grout. It's extraordinary. And Josh sort of bursted onto the scene because you weren't really too active with social media. And then like you posted this picture of an octopus, and it's like goes viral. You're getting calls from magazines and things like that. Go ahead with the story. I just wanted to fill her.
Yeah. So like I said, it blew up. And the next thing I know, I'm being invited down to Orlando, Florida to do a presentation on it. It's called Coverings. It's the nation's largest tile expo. It's massive, and it's huge. I was blown away when I went there. This little guy from a little town of Homer, Alaska, I go down to Orlando to this huge, their convention center was just full of everything that had anything to do with tile. And I was blown away.
Well, before Homer, Alaska, you were a troublemaker from Battleground.
Yeah. So, I find myself, next thing I know, I find myself down there, I'm not a public speaker. I have a hard time. Like I was super nervous, going down. I didn't know what to expect. And, I did my spiel, and then that leads into, then the next year they had the national tile craftsperson of the year.
Wait a second. What type of presentation did you give down there? I mean, were people pretty receptive? They had heard of you. You did a presentation about this project.
About the octopus. Yeah. I put a little.
So what did you say? I mean, they gave you the floor. You had a stage.
Yeah, I was all mic'd up on a stage. I brought my original pattern down and had my pattern up behind me, which people thought was really cool.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I had a PowerPoint presentation put together.
Did you wear a suit? Did you wear a suit?
Oh. No, I'll wear a suit when I die in my coffin. Actually, no, I want my daily dirty tile clothes on in my coffin. But so this whole thing led into me meeting another artist that does very similar work to what I do. And I've become really good friends with him. His name's Lee Callowert. His business is Dragonfly Tile, and he's out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So he won the first annual Tile Craftsman of the Year award. And the executive director.
When was that?
That was 2019.
Oh, just recent.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we're 23 now, so was that 4 years ago?
It's recent. Dating back 5,000 years, it's just like
pretty recent compared to 5,000 years ago. So I was put in contact with Lee, with the industry, and they wanted us to do for Coverings 2020. They wanted us to put something together for Coverings 2020 and kind of like spur this whole artisan movement, which is what we've started. So we got together and met up and online over the computer, talked to each other for quite a bit. And the show the next year in 2020 was going to be in New Orleans. So we were going round and round on what to do for New Orleans. So we came up with a city skyline. Kind of city skylines or, buildings are pretty angular, like, straight lines and whatnot. So we figured that would be a good introduction for like a first level of like trying to teach people how to cut these mosaics like we're doing. Yeah. So I flew down to Wisconsin for a week and met Lee at the airport, and we went back to his shop and we just instantly hit it off. We've got a lot in common just in life, along with our artistry. And that turned, so we did that. And then 2020 fell out from under us due to COVID. So that never happened.
So that took the wind out. That took the wind out a little bit of this movement. It was like probably had a lot of momentum.
It did. And it was a bummer because we had this whole thing made. I flew down to Wisconsin twice. I made half of it up here. He made his half down there. I sent my half down there, and, they joined up seamlessly together. So for two artists to make the same project thousands of miles apart and to have them join together seamlessly, that was one accomplishment in itself. So
was that aspect of this mosaic tile movement, was that aspect due to your like the innovation, the innovative ideas of how you put these mosaics together? Like the concept of it can be done on paper. These designs can be drawn out to scale. Somebody
projected.
You could do, theoretically, you could have artisans from all over the globe putting together a giant mosaic in theory and come together at a show and put them together, or a project somewhere, in Manhattan or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's possible. There'd be a whole lot of planning involved in that, but so that's the whole, our concept was for our introductory artisan training. So we wanted to show, like, we were going to be live on stage at Coverings in 2020 with this pre-made piece that was that we had pre-cut, and we were going to install it in front of everybody and kind of, show everybody the ins and outs. And it was, that was the original concept. And then it fell through the cracks. And then, so 2020 comes around, or 2021, and the show was back in Orlando, and they wanted to go along with it and wanted us to do it because it never happened in 2020. So we're like, well, we can't bring a New Orleans piece to Orlando. So we were trying to think, well, what can we do for Orlando?
Right.
So I saw this image come through Facebook of this alligator that like was kind of, its nose was sticking out of the water and most of it was underwater. Super complicated design. And as a joke, I was like, hey, Lee, we should do this. Ha ha. Well, it turned out that that's what we ended up doing. Right. Because that kind of planted the seed, and that we wanted it to be next level. So what we did is we did this alligator. We call him Walligator. And
why'd you call him Walligator?
Well, we were trying to find a good name for it. And you remember back in Looney Tunes days, remember the alligator?
That was Wally?
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, so that's why we went with Walligator. So 2021 was still fucked up because of COVID. And they made the show like a third the size it normally is, and it was all toned down. So we ended up doing a live stream broadcast out of his shop, live down to Coverings. So Coverings is a 4-day event. So we did a live broadcast for 4 days. We flew in a videographer, and he was filming us.
Did Coverings fly in the videographer?
Yeah. So they covered the bill for the whole thing, and we did a live thing out of his shop, a live demonstration at Coverings, and it was interactive. We were able to talk to the crowd, and
it was probably better because you didn't have to move all your shit. And you had everything.
How are we going to get everything? There's so much involved in trying to get down there. We were going to try to figure out like a cut room and everything up down there.
That's cool. So they had you guys up on a big screen, like during the Covering show. People could kind of wander in and ask questions.
We had certain time slots that we were on the screen.
Okay.
And it was all scheduled out. So
Neat.
So it was a 4-day event, and we were on for, I don't know, 3 hours a day. Okay. On like physically on screen, but we were working the whole time, right? Because we had to get this whole thing put together, and it was, we prefabbed pretty much the whole thing by the time the show was. So we had to script it, because what we're doing takes weeks and weeks to do, and we had to cram it in 4 days and show everybody start to finish in 4 days. So that was 2021, and we did that, and that was a big success in the industry. And the NTCA has it's called Tile Letter. It's a magazine they put out monthly in the tile industry, and we had inspired Tile Letter, the editor, her name's Leslie Godden. She was so inspired by what we were doing. She started a whole new, it's called Tile Letter Artisan. And right now it's coming out twice a year. But it's a big, thick, it's a full color magazine that's strictly dedicated to tile artisan work.
Cool.
So that came out of our movement. So that's just one more thing that came out about. But then we turned into like, we've got a reference manual, and I don't know if you guys have anything like that in your industry, of like it's like our tile Bible. Tells you like the proper ways for any job that you come across. It'll tell you the proper ways of tackling it, right? Well, I could tell you there was no section for mosaicing, and which is funny because mosaics are, like I said, it's the oldest.
Yeah, but isn't
tile? But
isn't mosaic tile work just like it costs a lot of money and a big waste of time? Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So when we're building our mosaics, when I started out, I'd make the mosaic and I'd go to the job and I'd install it piece by piece on like the shower or wherever it was.
Okay.
And somewhere along the line, I figured out, well, wow, it'd be a lot easier to pre-mount this stuff in my shop. So I'm just taking pre-made panels that might have 50 mosaic pieces on it and installing panels, right? So I figured out my own way to pre-mount. And Lee was pre-mounting using a different method.
See, I was thinking early on that you could pre-mount and then like sell the designs. Like you have
I've done that too. Then that's
Okay.
that's a whole nother aspect, is making stuff in
Like
other
somebody wants
installers.
somebody wants their family on a backsplash looking weird. I
Yeah.
send a photo up to Josh and Homer. You're like, okay, it's going to be like 10K. You send down an image of whatever they want, and the local tile installer here, is able to put it together into maybe they'd have to be licensed or something, but they put it in and into a house here.
Yeah.
That seems like it would be cool. Are you
Yeah.
moving
So
in that direction?
yeah, a little bit.
A
I've
little
done a
bit.
couple like that. We teamed up with another artist, and her name's Angie Ray. She's out of Utah. So the three of us teamed up, and that's what she does. She's just a mosaic artist. She's got a studio where she makes mosaics, pre-mounts them, and ships them off to
Oh,
installers or
cool.
homeowners or whatever. And that's what she does.
What's her
Lee and I
what's
are both
what's her
installers. Angie Ray
what's her
with
website?
Unique Mosaics is the name of her business. I think it's uniquemosaics.com. We brought her in because she's an amazing artist. She does just
Yeah.
amazing work. And she pre-mounts, and that's what she does, and she sells them to other installers. So Lee and I are both installers that are pre-mounting and selling our artwork to our clients and installing our artwork. And she is an artist that makes the art and sells it to her clients, which are either homeowners or contractors.
She's
So we
smarter
brought
than
her
you.
in.
She's smarter than you guys because she doesn't do the install
Yeah, women are smarter sometimes.
all the time,
so
dude.
so we brought her in, and so we've got three methods of pre-mounting. My method was and always has been, and was my go-to is fiberglass mesh, like a glue mounted fiberglass mesh on the back of tiles.
Yeah.
That's my method. Lee's method is, in our industry, we've got waterproofing fabric that we use in showers. It's
Okay.
like a glorified fleece fabric that's waterproof that you put over wallboard, like you put it over drywall or Durarock or anything like that, and it waterproofs the shower. So his method was installing the tiles, pre-mounting on that membrane. So then once it dries, then you've got a hard backed surface, that you can install. And then Angie's method was and she's used a little of all of them, but the method that she was proposing was foam backed mosaics. So in our industry, everything's turned to foam. Like all of our wallboard, not all of it, but the majority of the wallboard and stuff now that people are using is all like a rigid hard foam. And
Like the stuff that goes into showers, like the Hardy Backer.
Yeah, instead of using Hardy Backer, it's all foam now. I mean, there's
Weird.
there's a time and a place for Hardy Backer.
Sure.
But the cool thing about the foam is it's already waterproof, right? It's really lightweight. It's easy to cut.
Yeah.
It doesn't cause cancer when you cut it. You're not breathing silica dust.
That helps.
So there's a lot, and it's a waterproof panel. And when you put it together, there's different methods of putting it together, but it's a waterproof system when you're done. And they sell that from 1/8 of an inch thick up to 2 inches thick for different.
So you can put your mosaic right onto that stuff.
Correct. So that was her method. So there's a tile technical committee that meets twice a year, and that's the committee that writes all the rules for our reference manual. So we approached the technical committee with our three methods, and we wanted to get them adopted and put into the manual. So we worked on that for months and met up, and I don't remember where it was.
What did you work on? Just the wording, and did you each have a chapter that you tackled?
Yeah. So like I said, I was.
This is where your writing skills came into play.
Oh, totally, man. I'm a prolific writer. So good with words. Like
or this is where like Lisa's writing skills.
No, actually, I did it all.
Did you do most of it?
Yeah,
but you have like a built-in editor there. Like, did she help?
Me kind of format it all together.
Nice.
I wrote it all down. But I'm the kind of guy that buys like a birthday card, and then I sit down for an hour and a half just trying to think of something to put on the damn card. I have a hard time with words. So that's me. So now I'm like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah,
So I
sure.
find myself like writing a proposal to stand
Okay.
in front of the board of like, you got to understand, these are all the best of the best in the tile industry of like, it's all volunteer, right? They
Maybe we
volunteer to be
shouldn't
on
have
this
been
board.
smoking so much herb in English class. Just come.
So,
I can
so
cut that out.
we
I
approached the
might cut
board.
that out. I might not. I don't give a shit. You know what? Fuck BGHS.
Some of
Those
us still
guys.
do.
Those guys.
Some of us still smoke that stuff, and and find that it's a helpful tool in the industry.
Dude, I
So
just did a dispensary. You can go into it. You walk into a store and get like goop to squirt in your
are they
mouth. Or
are they paying you with weed or what? How's that work?
no, he was like he was touting about how great it was, and I was like, well, I'm sorry, I don't smoke. So he was, it kind of made him a little bit sad. He's like, well, if you change your mind, you should come over. Or when you decide to start or some shit like that.
Yeah,
But
I saw that post. You did just posted that a couple
hot,
days ago. That looked really
hot.
nice.
Yeah, they
I'm
did
surprised
like,
they didn't go with like green walls. They went with gray walls. Seems like a dispensary. They
well,
want some shade of green.
their angle, no, super pro. Like these guys were super pro, and like this is like the quintessential dispensary in Albuquerque, and they wanted it to look like hot, like high end. I mean, this is something that you could find in LA or like, New York. I mean, they really went like top notch. Their logos, like, they did like vinyl, like a vinyl logo underneath the epoxy. The epoxy floor guys kind of, yeah, it was like okay, it looked good, but you could tell, Albuquerque is tough to get like super high quality artisan.
Bet they didn't know about Tira Tile. Could have made something cool for them.
You could have made
I
it
don't know
cool.
how many
Yeah,
dispensaries you've been in, but it's funny how bourgeois they are. It's like
this one
a
is.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, some of them are like you got to order your weed from a like a computer screen and like
they
super
had little
bourgeois.
like acrylic discs for all the product. Like
Yeah, all in glass
it
display
looked
cases and
like
stuff.
a jewelry store is what it looked
Yeah,
like.
it's
And
not like the days of going over to Sean's house in the trailer park and scoring weed from the trailer
then you
park.
have to hang out, and like waste half your weed smoking them out of etiquette. Like fuck that. Just had a good
Yeah,
racket
man,
going.
times sure have changed.
Now you just walk into the store. Can I get some gummies? That's these are gonna make me too high? Oh, okay. I'll just get the like low
What
grade
flavor do
gummies.
you want? Like we never had flavor choices. You got what
No,
you got.
no. You got kind
But
bud. That's what we smoked. And then when we moved down, to Bisbee, it was like, whoa, what's this brown bud? This is cool. I can smoke it all day, and it doesn't make me
I
like
mean,
stupid, like the the kind bud up in the Northwest. I feel like we always had pretty good bud up there, but
yeah, those were the
they
days, huh?
but now it's like is it legal in Alaska?
Oh
What's the
yeah,
story? It
it's
is. It's
legal.
all okay.
Yeah.
It's legal there. All right. Yeah. I mean, it just became legal, I think, here. I don't know what the laws are or anything like that. If it's a medical, if you have to have a card or like this or that. But Cam, dude that came to train for Fresco Harmony, he came over and I was like, oh, did you have to smuggle your weed onto the plane? And he was like, oh no, I just bought it in the store when I got here. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah,
It
those
was,
days are long gone. I'm
yeah,
trying to figure out how to smuggle it on the plane.
yeah, yeah. It was
Yeah.
maybe a little more fun, but not as convenient, that's for sure.
I just took a little of the romance out of it.
It kind of did. It kind of did. It's like, having sex with your parents in the next room or something, it's a little bit a little bit sketchy.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, less fun. And it's like weed. It's like, the most harmless thing on the planet, but that's definitely another topic. So you and Angie and Lee are writing 3 chapters in the Letter Artisan, or no, not the Tile Artisan.
In our reference manual.
This is the actual Bible, the Tile Bible.
Yeah.
You guys are doing 3 new. How do you push something like that I mean, aren't these like drywall? Aren't these like higher ups or these old school dinosaurs in the tile industry? I mean, they're resistant to change too. They're like, no
Totally.
way. We've had
Yeah.
that manual's been there since 1970, and there's no way we're going to put some fancy highfalutin mosaic chapter in there.
Dope smoking artists stay out of our
Hippies.
reference manual.
When are you hippies just going to go?
We went into it knowing that, we heard that it was really hard to get things passed, and it's going to take multiple trips and multiple visits, and we did it, and we went down with our initial proposal, and everybody unanimously approved it on our first initial proposal. So then we went back.
So they're a little more. They're more open.
Totally, yeah. Because I mean, everybody in the industry is pre-mounting, but it wasn't really. It wasn't a recognized method yet.
Okay.
So we made it recognized. So they made a whole new chapter. We got chapter 6, brand new chapter for mosaics and the reference manual. Like we broke ground.
Were you getting pushback from like there? Because there's companies that sell to Home Depot. There's probably some giants out there that do pre-mount mosaic medallions.
That's a whole nother topic. That's something that's being addressed right now in the technical committee, and that's a committee that I'm on right now. Is factory store-bought mosaics that are mesh mounted. And the shitty thing about that is most all the mosaics that they're selling, like if you go to Home Depot and you get a factory mesh mounted mosaic, they're just garbage, and they use a glue that re-emulsifies when it gets wet. So then the glue separates from the back of the tile, and it doesn't bond correctly. So it's horrible.
Okay, so there's no regulation,
industry standards for them making.
Okay.
For them making them, and that's something that we're trying to deal with, and that's going to take a lot of time trying to get all of the companies on board. But that's another issue,
Well, and it's cheaper. It's probably, and especially if you're a tile company and you're pumping out tiles, you're going to make that tile, that mosaic tile that's already pre-put together as cheap as you can. And then you're going to have issues there. So
sweat labor.
You're pushing for regulations around the quality.
That's what it's going to, that's what we're trying to do is is trying to have it regulated a little bit. And it's not just what these pre-mounting practices aren't just for artwork. I mean, you see showers, like there's a lot of guys putting bands and borders in showers, like a horizontal or a vertical band of like glass in a porcelain shower, right? So porcelain, most of the time it flushes out to 3/8 of an inch once you got a bed of mortar under it. And a lot of these mosaics flush out at like a 1/4 inch, 5/16 to a 1/4 inch once you got a bed of mud under it. So it doesn't flush out, right? So
you're talking about the width,
the finished surface. Yes, the width, the thickness of the tile. So a lot of guys are just pre-mounting all of their mosaics and bands and stuff that they're putting in showers, and not necessarily mosaics artwork, but just normal stuff. So everybody's been doing it for a long time in the industry. It's just never been a recognized method. So we got it recognized, and it's in the manual.
Very cool.
So that's another thing that came about. And then
when does that revised edition of the manual come out with these chapters in it?
That came out this year. It's in this year's
it's out. It's out. How's it look?
Fantastic. I wish I had it here. I wish I was a little more prepared.
Now, did you get a little credit, chapter by Joshua Nordstrom, anything like that?
No, there's no name dropping in there. They put some of our pictures in there. There's a big picture of the alligator in there. There's some cool pictures.
They should have given you credit for that. All three of you guys.
People in the industry know who did it.
Yeah, they know.
So that was another thing that came about, and then we led into where Lee and I both wanted to do training. My pipe dream is to have a shop up here to where I can have installers come in and they could come up for like a work vacation. We can do like a 4-day workshop and I could teach them how to do mosaics, and we can go out and do some fun Alaska stuff for a day or two, and then they could fly out. So that's
what? Hey, wait, whoa! What's there fun to do in Alaska?
Well, some people like to fish and hike and and ski, and
that sounds boring.
Yeah. So, that's always been on the back of my mind, something I wanted to do. And
would you have it in Homer?
Well, that's because I live here. That was my pipe dream, right?
Okay.
And Lee had the same idea, and he wanted to do something down where he was. So we both have had this on our minds for years before we even met each other. So, one thing leads to another in the industry. We worked together on 2 different projects with the NTCA, and now we've got this reference manual thing going, and there's a tile little artisan like this. So we've started this movement.
Okay.
So I should mention that we started a Facebook group when we first met for the New Orleans project. We started a Facebook group, and it's called the Tile Trade Artisans Guild. And we've got 2,300 members in it now, and it's a worldwide. We've got people on the other side of the pond. So, there's a lot of mosaic groups online too, but they're all like crafters, like people that do beautiful mosaics, but they don't know how to install them properly, unless they're hanging on a wall in your house. It's not a practical installation. So we started this group for tile trade artisans, people that are in the tile trade. So we started the guild. And that's another thing that's come about, but we definitely share a lot of our knowledge on the guild. That's what it's all about. It's sharing the knowledge and inspiring other people to do mosaics. So that led into the NTCA. We approached the NTCA about it, and they wanted to back us on it and sponsor an event. So the NTCA and Laticrete, which is a tile, like a manufacturer product manufacturer. They're one of the biggest in the industry. So with Laticrete and the NTCA, we got the funding to do our event. So now we're putting our event together. It's the first event's going to be next summer. It's going to be over summer solstice. It's going to be June 19th to the 22nd or 23rd, I think. It's a 4-day event. So it's through the 23rd. It's a 4-day event. We're gonna hold it in Milwaukee at the Dragonfly Studios. Just now we've had weekly Zoom meetings, and we're putting a curriculum together.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna have a 4-day event next June at Dragonfly Studios, and we're only doing it for 15 installers at a time, because we want it to be intimate. We want people it's more hands-on. We didn't want to try to have 30 people and have us 2 guys teach 30 people. It's just too much. So
are you charging for the event?
It's $1,000. It's $1,000 fee for 4 days. There's meals included. No, it's not bad. That includes a hotel stay. So there's a hotel that's downtown Milwaukee. The name of it right now, and I'm sorry if I don't know the name of the hotel, but it's a hotel that's dedicated to like artisanship. So it's like this funky art hotel. It's really cool. They've got record players in each room, and they've got a whole record collection in the lobby where you can check out records and listen to records in your room. And like the whole place is like artistry. It's not like a normal hotel.
Yeah.
So everybody's staying there. We're going to shuttle everybody back and forth to the studio every day.
You guys could have worked a deal with that hotel where you did like a mosaic in their lobby. Did you consider that?
No, because maybe as time goes on for another event. But it's trying to put this thing together. The thought of it's great. And then when it's like, oh yeah, we got the go ahead. We got the funding to do this. It's like, there's a lot involved, a lot. It's unbelievable. So we put it out on the guild, and the class filled up in less than 2 days. It was awesome. It was overwhelming. And we've got a waiting list of people. Why don't you just fire up another one 6 months down the road? Or well, we're hoping that's what it leads into. We really, really want this first one to be a success, which we both know it will, because we put our heart and soul into this. Yeah, people are really jazzed about it. So I think if it's a success, we'll definitely do another one. And it shouldn't cost us as much to put the next one on because we won't have so much of a startup cost, because we're trying to acquire tools and stuff. We reached out to tool manufacturers. We're getting donations from tool manufacturers.
Well, that's what I'm saying with things like the hotel, the city can become more involved, just like the NTCA, I'm sure they're helping fund, and Laticrete is helping fund part of the part of the event.
It's a pretty big ticketed expense, for this whole thing. I mean, it's a lot of money to get it off the ground.
Yeah. Is there the only question that I had is there a certification what do these guys get for this effort of coming here to doing the training? It seems like there should be a special like scout badge,
Yeah. Well, that's what we'd like to turn it into. We're going to send everybody away with a certificate, so they'll have a certificate saying that they went through the artisan class. And we'd like to, I'd like to see it. So they've got the CTI. I was talking about that, certified tile installer. And then they've got ACTs, which is advanced certified tile installer. All right. So they've got ACTs, which go different ways in the industry. So I'd like to see this artisan thing turn into an ACT exam.
Yeah.
That would be cool if that's what it turns into.
And you have to have your certification now is to come to the class?
No, not yet. No.
You should do that too, because that's going to also promote the importance of having that.
We talked about that, but there's a lot of guys in the group that aren't certified yet. Just because of like the nature of where they live, it's hard. Like I had to fly to California to get certified. They haven't brought it
that's an issue in the tile community as well. There should be easier certifications or online certifications.
We asked that people had at least 5 years of experience in the industry, because we don't want people coming in that are virgins on the saw, and we can't have people cutting their fingers off on the saw and whatnot.
Right.
So, and it was an application. I mean, you had to fill out an application, like you had to be accepted. It's not like the first 15 people got it. So, and we know everybody through the guild that's joined, that's coming. So, we were going to put it out on all the Facebook groups, but we thought, we'll put it on the guild first, and it filled up in 2 days. So we haven't even put it on the other pages yet.
So cool.
The NTCA and Laticrete are both trying to figure out, like, they're going to have a meeting here soon. Is like, how do we promote an event that's already full? So they're trying to figure that out.
You could have future events during the big tile show coverings, or at the front, or the end of it, where you have this training. Then you go to experience coverings or other tile shows around the country. But it definitely should move to where it's convenient for other people, and it sounds like you got to have 2 or 3 a year.
Yeah, that's what we'd like. I'd like to turn into like, so I mean, you got to think like 15 people. We need 15 saws. We need 15 everything. So that's a lot of equipment. I'd like to see it turn into like where we have our own van or a Connex or something that everything's kept in, and it just gets moved from from town to town. And we can do
and that's trainings. Where I think you could get together with the city and get funding from the city to have 15 qualified artisan tile installers.
And make something cool for the city. I know that was one of the very first pitches, is like, well, we could do something for a public park or something. And that might be what it turns into. Everybody's going to walk away with the mosaic. Everybody's going to create their own mosaic. It's all going to be the same thing. Everybody's going to make it's a koi. So it would be cool, and then turn it into more of a community thing. And that's, that might be what it turns into down the road. But like I said, we're just trying to get it off the ground and try to get it all structured. And, my wife being a teacher, I look at it like it's a curriculum, like we're putting the curriculum together. So once we have our curriculum, then we can go and teach it anywhere, and we can modify it as we need to along the way.
You're going to have to start paying Lisa. She's going to have to get a premium.
She wants to retire and be part of the whole thing. So that's cool.
Good.
I encourage that when she finally retires, which is crazy to think that she can retire. It makes me feel old. That and all this gray hair on my chin.
we're getting old. You can
I
stave
know,
it
it's
off as
nuts,
much as
man.
you want, but whatever.
It's
You
crazy.
know, you know what? This stuff keeps us young, Josh. Um, what what does the future hold? Well, there's two questions. What would you like to see these people get out of the training? And then what does and then that sort of carries over into the future of tile. What would you like to see happen in construction, the tile space? Where is this all leading? Do you have like a, you know, a lofty end goal in mind?
Well, our goal for the people that are going to be going to our event is, the goal is for them to be able to leave with the confidence of being able to, number one, like sell a mosaic to a client, and to be confident in selling mosaic, be confident on designing it, and the confidence on fabricating it to installing it. So those are all the key elements that we're going to be teaching.
Cool.
So we're hoping that everybody walks away with the knowledge of knowing how to sell, design, fabricate, and install a mosaic. You know, we're trying to help people
into that
up
a
their game.
lot, where the tile guys are like maybe resistant because it's like different? I'm used to doing
Yeah.
tile. This is out of my comfort zone. I don't want to. I don't want to try it because maybe it's hard and different.
You know what the common comments are is, oh, I can't even draw a stick figure. I have no creativity. Well, I call bullshit, because anybody that's a tile installer is already an artist in there, in a sense, because just the nature of what we do. There's an art to it, you know, just like doing mud work, like what you guys do. There's an art to it. So
absolutely.
So, you know, you could throw that out right from the get-go. Like, you could say you're not an artist. You don't have to be. I mean, there's different ways. That's what we're talking about. You know, we're going to go over with the designing. There's different ways you can go about designing. You don't have to be a Picasso artist in order to do this. You know, it's like,
right.
You got to have a creative mind, and anybody that's wanting to come to this event already has that creative mind. So they, you know, they've got it. We just got to show them the right methods and the way to go about it. You know, all of the, from start to finish. You know, there's just so much involved that we've got to cram into 4 days. You know, we really got to dilute it, and they have to. I mean, you know, you got to remember, they're going to be fabricating. So a day and a half of that is going to be all fabrication. So we've got to go over all these key design elements and selling, and, you know, all this in a short amount of time, and still leave them enough time to fabricate something and pre-mount it so it can all be packaged up by the time they leave.
And fun. It's got to be fun.
Oh yeah, it'll definitely be fun. It's going to be. There's a lot. I don't know if there's a lot of industry events in the drywall world, but there's a lot of tile events that go on. A lot of companies go around and do like a 1-day training, you know, to like for their shower systems and whatnot. The NTC goes around and does all these 1-day trainings for like large format tiles. You know, they've got these big, I don't know if you know like how big tiles are now. I mean, they've got tiles that are 5 foot by 10 foot, like pieces of porcelain, like monsters, right? And it takes all special equipment, and, you know, so they've got training for everything. So there's a lot of cool training events, but we're trying to bring ours up a notch because it's an artisan training. You know, we want it to be a really special event where it's going to be the buzz of the tile industry, you know.
Well, it's smart. It's smart that you are working with the NTCA, and doubly, it's pretty cool that it seems like they're really open to supporting what you guys are up to. That's a big deal. So that's cool.
Yeah. Well, they see like, so the United States is generally about 2 years behind on styles and trends from like Italy and across overseas, Spain, Italy, and all that. And the big thing over there right now is wall coverings, mosaic wall coverings. It's huge. Mosaics are making a big comeback. Okay. So they see that. And this, you know, we had a meeting with the president of Latacrete at one of the last events. We went down to Palm Springs here. I don't know, it was a few months ago now, for our last technical committee meeting. And we had a meeting with the president of Latacrete, and he's like, yeah, I just got back from my trip overseas. And he says that the number one thing I brought back was like how the industry is changing for, you know, wall coverings are turning into artwork, mosaics and whatnot. So, and he's a big artist himself. He's an amazing
Yeah.
artist. He does
Well,
amazing
he's
drawings.
smart. He's smart that he has his thumb on the pulse, and
Totally. Yeah.
he's promoting Latacrete, so he's supporting you guys as well. It's pumping his brand. It's just smart,
Well, Latacrete's always they're known for being innovative and being one step ahead of everybody. So
Okay.
I think that they see that, and that's why they're definitely fully embracing this whole movement. So it's pretty cool,
Very cool.
it's an up and coming thing. So
Good stuff.
we're kind of the pioneers of it. We're getting this whole thing going, and we're trying to turn it into more of a movement for for the typical tile installer, because I mean, you can go in and do an entryway floor for somebody, and it's a $1,500 $2,000 labor or whatever for however big the floor is. Well, if you could sell them a mosaic to put in that, or a medallion, you could double that.
It's the same. It's the same with the Fresco Harmony. You're doing drywall hang finish texture on a house, and you can take an extra 6 hours and throw up like an accent wall and make an extra $1,000-$2,000. Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
a no-brainer
that people. Yeah,
it's just
my
resistance
rabbit back there, or my wife's rabbit.
I keep looking at the moose.
Oh, the moose.
Yeah, that's the same moose that was on. So you have a mosaic around your fireplace that's a moose head. That looks like the same moose.
It looks very similar to that.
Yeah,
really similar, but it's not the same one.
Did you kill that moose?
I did. But the one that you're speaking of was one I just finished, and that's I don't know if we bought a remote piece of property out. It's on Moosehorn Lake.
Okay.
So we've got a remote piece of property that we go out to, and my buddy has the property next to us. He's got a cabin already built. He's a contractor in town. He throws a lot of work my way. He sells my mosaics a lot. I've done a lot of mosaics in his houses. He's a real high-end builder, and he's a good friend. So I figured, I was like, well, I'm going to make something for your cabin. So I just made him that and surprised him. He didn't know what I was making.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, it's basically that, and it's
very cool.
It's a hearth, and then his little wood stove sits right in the.
Why did you go with the skull and not the full taxidermy like head?
Well, that's called a European mount.
Okay.
And it just doesn't look like a dead animal staring at you every time you walk by it.
Yeah.
So, and
I think they're a little more tasteful, maybe.
Yeah, we don't have real estate on our wall for a full mount. Right. I mean, the moose are huge.
They're huge. It's
like they're the size of a horse. That rack right there is 54 inches from one side to the other, so it's massive, right?
Yeah.
So to put a full mount on the wall, we wouldn't have room in our house for it. And I think this is more tasteful. They just look better.
I just have a fake bamboo tree.
Did you kill it? Did you harvest that?
No, I never. I only have fake plants.
So I made that for his cabin.
Beside the bamboo,
on doing some local advertising with that. It's moose is obviously it's a real Alaskan thing, and I'm planning on doing some target advertising on Facebook with that. So I just haven't had time. I mean, we just installed it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, social media is very hard. It's like I stay on top of it, but I'm on my phone a lot, like a lot. But I'm promoting my product, and, it's that's my excuse, but it's very challenging to really stay on top of that. Now with the Drywall podcast, it's like, 2 pages that I have to sort of stay on top of. It's a lot of work, but the podcast has been like really doing well. So, and you've listened to a couple of the Drywall podcasts. They're pretty funny.
Probably 6, 8, maybe 10 of them. I don't know, quite a few. I like to just have something going, not necessarily always music. I just like to always be listening to something. So,
yeah.
And I don't know anything about the drywall industry, but it's cool to hear you guys rap about it,
Yeah.
It's entertaining. Even though I'm not in the industry, it's still fun to listen to.
Yeah. The Myron Ferguson one was pretty good. 600,000 copies of a drywall book. Like he wrote this drywall book and sold like a bunch of copies. He's at IBS right now. and he does like these little shows, and then that other dude, there's a dude, the last two are pretty funny. Kevin Bush is really funny. He's up in Montana, but it's pretty cool. I do like no podcasts like with people here. I just go all over, which is really cool. I'm talking to a guy this afternoon at 12:30. He's in Australia. It'll be 6:30 his time. And I want to interview him. Like, cool. He started a podcast. He's affiliated with Proform, like some company in Australia. And then there's another podcast that started in Canada with Brawley's dad. He's a cool dude that I met and I interviewed. And then I've just started to talk with Columbia Tools, is out of British Columbia, Aaron. And you've sort of inspired this. It was like you inspired me to like look at it more like on a industry level, like on a, why isn't there a chapter on fucking colored mud? Who said USG gets to write the book on this shit? Kind of like questions. And that we only have one show and it's super lame. I mean, it's drywall, it's like the lamest thing there is. And it's in, and it's all ran by the bigwigs, like people that are trying to pump new products in this space, like have a really hard time because they're not in the group. And so I've just started talking to Aaron about having like a drywall Olympics or like a convention, like, or even an organization that's not ran by any one company for like the individual people in drywall where we can have a convention where, innovative products and people showing off their wares can have a venue. And like you could have races with the bazooka and like the box tools and stuff. And like, like,
yeah, make it more fun.
Yeah, bringing camaraderie to the industry, but also creating like the industry to be more cool. Maybe have an accent wall where people can do Venetian plaster or fresco harmony or faux finishing or a piece of art, or stencil, and have like, a contest to create the coolest wall art. And then a contest where somebody's, you race people running the bazooka. I mean, we just sort of started this conversation, but I think what you're doing in your industry is similar in that you're creating community, which is very cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't tell you how many tile like friends I have on Facebook that I've never met in person.
Yeah.
But I feel like I know them just from my damn phone, and then you go to these events and you actually meet them, and then you go out to the bars afterwards, to dinner. And it's super fun. The camaraderie is amazing.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to
family.
Yeah, the Build 23 is going to be like a bunch of dudes that I now know from Canada, and other dudes are coming because they know we're going to be there, and then we're going to all hang out and have fun in Vegas and like, be talking and selling our wares and meeting other people. It's very cool, And
that's the end of this month, right? End of February, you go for that?
End of February, I'm going to Canada to do a Fresco Harmony training at CSR where we're selling product.
When's your industry event in Vegas? I thought it was in February.
That's in March. So 2 weeks later, I'll go to Vegas.
You're going to be busy traveling.
Yeah.
You got all your ducks in a row to go to Canada? You got your passport and all that shit?
Yeah, we went to fucking Germany and Prague last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you guys are world travelers.
Yeah, Nevada likes to travel. She went to fucking Iceland, Ireland. She's just like, and then like I was like getting back, she wanted to go to Hawaii, and I was like, that's like Sean's spring break is like a week after I get back from like Build 23. I'm like, hopefully I have like 5 distributors lined out that I have to deal with when I get back from that shit. Like I can't go to Hawaii. Like, I want to, but I like traveling too. But my whole theory was like, oh, well, I could create traveling into like being oriented to business travel, to where I'm like making it purposeful. I'm talking to a distributor out of Scotland. Like that would be really cool to go over to Scotland. They're doing lots of plaster over there too now. Plaster's having a reawakening in Europe, much like the mosaic. And he's like, we're looking for cheaper alternatives, to create the same effect, so like, how cool would that be? Go to Scotland and hang out and write it off.
Yeah. It's got to be creative about it.
Yeah. Yeah. But the training thing, it's what a great idea. And if you can wrap certifications into that or help create awareness around certifications, with that event and have multiple events per year, maybe one of you, Angie and Lee, maybe each one of you take a training. That way you're not doing trainings all the time. Each one of you can lead a training, throughout the year. You can have 3 trainings. It's just cool to come up with ideas. It's much larger than ourselves, and it's bigger than just creating a piece of art on the wall, when you can really impact change.
Yeah, Lee and I have talked about that. We're not going to be doing it forever. We'd like to think that it's going to, we're going to leave a legacy, and there'll be other people
That's right.
that put our shoes on and they're out there teaching people.
Yeah.
So we'll see what it, it's, you got to plant the seed and water it and see what it turns into,
Yeah. Yeah. Joshua Nordstrom, Homer, Alaska, Tierra Tile. What else do we have? The Tile Trade Artisans Guild. Busy guy. He's doing lots of cool stuff. What are we going to look for? We're going to look for, we could find you on, what's your Instagram?
Tierra Tile is everything for me. Tierra Tile on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. And Facebook.
I got to get my website up and running again. I have a hard time with the website because you got to pay somebody to all it is for me is just the online portfolio. So you always got to pay somebody to update it, and just it's easy for me just to put shit on Facebook. So
yeah, you can do it however you want, man. There's no right or wrong way. I
have a website, but you can find me on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah. And there's lots of articles.
I did the TikTok thing briefly, but then I got creeped out by it, and I pulled the plug on TikTok.
Yeah, it's weird. Is Halen and Jace doing the TikTok thing? You let them on there?
I imagine so, yeah. Who knows really what they do with their their computers.
That TikTok thing's weird, man. I can't even figure it out. I'll post videos on there, but and then people are liking my stuff, and I'm like, it's just weird. It's hard to follow.
I don't have time for all that. I do everything for my business. I bid the jobs, I get the jobs, I do the work, I do it all. It's hard to find time to sit down and do all this computer shit. And that's just not really my deal too,
You have a YouTube though, right? Do you have a YouTube page?
No, it's something I'd like to do, but
that one. Well, because you did Tycon News, you're into editing and shit. That's cool. Yeah. It's definitely a creative outlet. All YouTube is, you could think of it this way, is a venue to just hold all your videos. I'll edit a video, post it to YouTube, and then you can go watch. I've got 65 videos on YouTube, just random shit, but they live there. Yeah. And anyway, somebody's like, well, how do you do a patch? Or, I saw that you were doing an etching, and it's oh, check out this video here. I did a whole video on etching, and it just lives there, and they can know how to do it. You could break up your whole tile class into a 10-part video series and just put them all on YouTube. Anybody can watch them anytime.
Yeah. No, it's something I wanted to do, but it's hard to make time for everything.
Yep. Well, thank you for
kind of an old fuddy-duddy when it comes to computers too.
Whatever. Thank you so much for your time and being with me, buddy. It's good to we're if we can't be face to face, this is pretty close, right? It's pretty cool. It's
about as close as it gets until they figure out
how to teleport.
Teleport or holograms or whatever.
Yeah, hologram would be kind of fun, but
doesn't seem too far off.
Man, it's been great. I'm proud of you. I'm very excited to see where this all goes. And we'll talk soon, man.
Yeah, well, feelings mutual too, man. I know we've been both grinding at it. It's been both of our dreams since we lived together.
Yeah.
And you went your way with it and I went my way, and here we are still grinding. And I kind of feel like we're both right on the edge of it finally happening, you know.
It's cliche, but it's like the journey, not the destination. Like I'm right where I want to be. As soon as I decided not to work for somebody and start my own business, I consider myself to be successful at that point,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, success is just how you measure it.
Yeah. It's all relative. Yeah. Well, cool, man. Tell Lisa and the kiddos I said hi, and we'll talk soon, buddy.
All right. Well, you do the same thing, man. It was nice talking to you.
All right. Love you, man.
Love you too, bud.
Special thanks to Joshua Nordstrom for being on the local cast today. I appreciate your time and all you're doing for the construction industry. If you have questions for me about Josh or the local cast or anything, you can contact me at info@frescoharmony.com. Thank you so much for joining the local cast today and listening. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and stay tuned for the next one.